So I guess the only other question is the CVB.
And I have some of the same questions. I believe that Mr. Garamendi, when it comes to the Visitors Bureau and the other transit occupancy taxes.
Okay, so with your permission, Madam Chair, then I'll just bring it. We've got a TOT with an agreement to have, and since this is in here, we got a TOT to allocate 25% in our 4 different ways that we've all agreed to. If we hit our goal, our numbers, which as the CAO put forward at year end, since we're talking about true ups with fire, that's what we go by. That's going to be $750,000 to the Visitors Bureau. Now, I see the director's here, and he and I have spoken about this before, and I've said this at least for the last 3 budgets. I think that we're a little over our skis with just flat out giving the CVB a blank check for $750,000. I know that the executive director is willing to present a budget to this board, and we can take a look at the budget. But I think the blank check and then coming back to us, I think $750,000 is a whole lot of money. It's $300,000 and even budgeted in this. So I want to talk about the CVB budget and whether we're just going to let it be a blank check or whether we're going to actually have a budget. Anybody want to talk about that? I guess I'm polling the board.
Do you want to?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not clear. Are you saying, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we can have a discussion on it, but I'm not clear on what you're proposing to do. I think the CVB is a very well-run organization, and it does a lot for this county in bringing in tax dollars, that's general fund dollars that we use, and for the merchants of our county. We are way up there in the national registry as a place to visit and to live, and I think a lot of that has to do with the CVB and them reaching out not only to the other counties in California, but nationwide, and that's not cheap, and I think for the money we're putting into it and what we're getting back, it is profitable and very good for us as far as our general fund. You saw the sales tax dollars amount. A lot has got to be attributed to CVB.
I couldn't agree with you more. I believe that they are very valuable and they're doing a good job. My question is, if the CVB could run last year on $350,000 or whatever the budget was, and we could ask that $400,000, do we need to be spending another $350,000? That's not, they don't need, it's not in their budget, or can we use that on other priorities? I mean, that's just the question. I mean, do we want to go by the money they need, or we want to give them more than they need and not fund other things? So maybe the question is, what does the CVB need?
That's part of the conversation.
I'll just say this: we're not the fire departments. They'll use the 750, and I mean, in the sheriff's department and public works. Why are we picking on CVB? If they get this increase, I'm sure they'll find a way to productively use the money and just not squander it away. I think they're well run, a good organization set up by our merchants. Most everybody that's on that board is a merchant within Calaveras County, and they know how to handle money, or they wouldn't be in business, self-employed business the way they are. So.
If I might then, if we have the director of the CVB here, maybe we ought to ask them what their budget is and what do they need for the year. And if it's less than 750, that money can go back into the general fund to fund things like libraries and parks and rec.
I have further questions too, but Merita, let's start with Merita.
I don't know if you need to be standing up there.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can, sorry.
Thanks, Kathy.
I mean, the other way we can look at it is if the sales tax increases for the fire districts, why give the fire districts TOT money? The sheriff has a huge part of the county general fund revenue. Is he going to miss $400,000? You know, the roads can have it. I don't think any of us will disagree on that. If, Supervisor, you're asking we should review the CVB budget to see how they're spending or budget their revenue or what they're going to do, then the same could be said for, let's review the fire district's budgets to see how they're spending their money. And I don't think we should be doing that. I understand what you've been saying, but I also agree with Gary. They are the ones that have brought business to the county. And when I hear and see what they did during COVID, and the ads that they did were saying, you know, we'd really like you to be here, now's not the time, or something like that, you know, we'd really welcome you when things open up. I thought that was, it kept Calaveras' name out there, but it wasn't saying, oh, we want you up here, even though people came anyway. I don't see why we should be micromanaging their budget or the fire districts.
We could ask them.
Ben,
They're in the room.
Ben.
I think there are multiple factors. You know, just because fire has TOT going in, we're talking apples and oranges here. You know, when we give them those, when we give so I'm not even going to discuss the fire departments right now. When it, you know, that can be the next conversation if you bring it up, Ms. Callaway. But with the with the Visitors Bureau, you know, I have some concerns. You know, you know, when we give them that money, it's to sell Calaveras County. Now, yes, COVID was a changing time, but we don't give them the money to tell people to stay away. That's not what we gave them the money for. That wasn't the intention. So, you know, if you like the message, that's fine, but that wasn't the intent of the money. We can talk about also, I'm curious what the Angels Camp portion of it is on that total. I'm curious as to, this came up last year during budget, you know, that, you know, what are those monies being spent on? You know, was it all for putting out the message for people to, you know, we'd love to have you to stay home, or was it spent elsewhere within a community that's not directed towards bringing people into Calaveras County? You know, those are real questions that were brought up prior that I would like to hear answers to.
So you want to review their budget?
We asked for it last year. We were told it was going to be brought to us.
I thought,
And now's budget time, so I would love to hear it.
I wonder if there's a person in this audience who knows the numbers.
And my intent is not to cut, I see the value in it, but I think hearing from him would benefit us in saying, what does it take to run the Visitors Bureau? What does it take to run the Visitors Bureau? To be successful?
Well, I think a lot of the items, when we're asking that question, it can't be quantified either.
That's for 5 years. I'm sorry.
No, so, but there's a couple questions, so we need clarity on what the, Martin, would you come up and answer what your total budget is? And then if you are able to, what the portion of the City of Angels?
Sure, thank you. We have done our budget for fiscal year 22-23, which will get approved by our board on Thursday. We have put in $400,000 from the county and $110,000 from the city. And that is a conservative figure. I don't need more than $400,000 to run the Visitors Bureau this next year. Supervisor Stopper, Supervisor Garamendi had asked to see the budget. I didn't know that you wanted to as well. I did meet with Supervisor Garamendi and went over the budget. I did meet with Krista, our CAO, and go over the budget as well. So they're very aware, and if you'd like to sit down, I can go through the budget with you.
I think another thing,
That's a fair answer.
That's straightforward.
All right. Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you. Because he just told us, out of that $735,000, that he's budgeted in $400,000.
Can I just say, $400,000 is what I think we should be spending. I think that we are seeing a bit of a heyday with the pandemic, with the people that are coming back up. I think our TOT is probably larger than it has been in quite a long time. But I don't think that that's going to sustain. And I think we will see a drop here in the next year or two.
and I also wanted to bring up, some of the dollar amounts that do go to CVB are what our expectations are as the governing bodies in each of the jurisdictions. So one item that came up a couple of years ago, which increased the CVB allocations, were wayfinding signs of the entrance into the county, which then was put on hold because of COVID, because we didn't know what the economy was going to look like, and so it was a fee. So when we just be mindful when we are allocating these funds, and specifically to CVB, it is projects that we too are asking the CVB to do, benefit not only what they're doing outside of the county, but within the county to bring and welcome folks in. So just take that into a food for thought going into the future, is they can and do a lot of work that benefits right here for all of us.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a poll that we allocate $400,000 as requested by the Visitors Bureau to their budget and reduce accordingly, taking the remainder and putting it into the general fund. If that's their budget and that's what they're requesting, we're going to drop $250,000 that they're not asking for on them. So there's my poll.
So, Martin, is that accurate?
Acceptable.
Okay.
Acceptable. I mean, I would like the opportunity next year to revisit that if in fact, we do see our TOT, falling off and we need to be marketing more, but I think that this is realistic for this year.
Okay.
That's more than fair. I appreciate that answer, Martin. It's great, actually.
And possibly into the future, if there's this type of discussion, it happens prior to getting to this day, to alert the board on. Merita?
I don't support that. If we're going to start going down that road and micromanaging them every year, then we ought to be doing that for the fire departments, and we ought to be doing that for the sheriff's office. Sheriff said, well, I'm not going to spend all the TOT, or however he does it, then, okay, could you give us back some? If we want to say, let's divvy up the TOT into 5 increments, the 5th being the general fund, I'll support that. But to pick on just the CVB without doing it to the sheriff and the fire districts, I don't think that's appropriate, and that's going to start making more work. Either we've made this commitment and we stick to it, and this is going to be possibly a good year. I know there have been bad years. And our businesses have suffered, and we've really said to the CVB, well, what are you doing to bring people in? I mean, it's going to cycle at one day. I don't want us to do that unless we do it for the others also.
I do not disagree with that statement. There should be a methodology across the board, but with Martin standing in front of us saying that I'm open to going with that recommendation at this time, but knowing that next year will be a different conversation and a different methodology across the board for all of that 25% and or the needs, given if there's large economic changes.
Well, then let's ask the sheriff. what are you going to do with yours?
Rita, I think you're missing, my point is that the agency is sitting in front of us asking for $400,000, and you're offering to give them $750,000. And I'm saying we could use that $350,000 for something else.
I hear that, Jack. But I'm also saying, you have the head of the department there, the organization there. I mean, he's putting his budget together based on whatever historically has happened. And let's ask the fire department, it's the same thing. He just happens to be here. And so, okay, and he's an easy target. The CVB is an easy target, let's pull it. Well, with the sheriff's budget in the millions of dollars, he's an easy target too.
Okay, are there any other specific questions for Martin? Otherwise, I'm going to let him sit down. Oh, sorry, Gay. Sorry, Gay,
Thank
go.
you, Madam Chair. I've been sitting here patiently hearing the conversation.
My head in this
My
way.
question, and thank you, Martin, for coming here, and thank you for making your statement of the amount that you guys have in your budget. My question to you is, if, with Merita, that you went back to your board and said, well, we've been given an extra $350,000 above what we've already voted on our budget, what would you recommend to them to do with that money? Is there anything
To be
specifically?
perfectly honest with you, at this moment, I wouldn't know how to spend that kind of money on what we're doing. I think our game plan and what we've been doing to date pencils out at 400, and I'm very happy with that. I wouldn't know what to do.
I can't argue with you then and I appreciate you being very frank and forward with us about that. I'm not going to, the fire department and the sheriff and public works, I'm not going to ask them to come up and present what they're going to do with the money if we give them $750,000. I think they all have a larger budget, and they have the ability to utilize that money as a whole. So I'm going to go with what the director of CVB is asking for, and I'll be very happy to give you the $400,000 that you're asking.
Ben?
Thank you. You know, that was a frank answer, and actually, I think it was a good business answer, and I really appreciate that. So I can support giving you the 400,000. I can support taking another look at it next year, depending on the conditions. Maybe it will. Maybe things will go down, and we'll want to do that money. But I think there's also other valuable things that can help you that we need to consider for that $350,000 we set aside that could possibly be towards economic development or that coincide with the Visitors Bureau. I mean, we have to consider that with our partnerships also going forward.
I would like talking to the board going forward regarding tourist infrastructure,
Right.
wayfaring sign, public restrooms, all these other things that we deal with, so yes, definitely.
No, there's a lot of good things we can do
Yeah.
with that money that would actually be beneficial in every which way, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Jack?
I mean, tourism is our #1 industry,
Yeah.
and I think having a robust discussion about how it's an important piece of economic development and what the needs are would be a great opportunity for a study session in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Gay?
I would agree.
Okay. Marita? Any? No? Okay. Cover my bases since I seem to have missed somebody and it's not purposely. Sorry.
yourself. What do you have to say?
I agree with what everyone said. I just don't want it to be a trend that goes in next year. Just making sure the line of communication is open between administration and the CVB of what expectations are, not only in county, but also outside, to continue to support the merchants and getting tourists here. So, thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
so we got that.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
may, so we'll include those changes in the adopted budget that we bring back in September.
Yes, please.
When we adopt it in the month, I'm guessing.
No, in September. We didn't actually budget that increase yet. Right now, the allocations are based on the status quo. So when we increase that, then we will budget this in September. We will not release any funding that isn't.
No, you're talking, but the CVB budget will be in this book at 400, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
When it
Yes.
comes to final budget.
Yeah, in the final budget, yes.
Right, if we do, right. So we'll make assessments for every month.
Well, I think there's another robust conversation of the TOT. It's more than just allocating to the 20, what are our revenue, our reserve, what are other expectation projects? We mentioned Parks and Rec, we got
So you're gonna-
capital improvement projects. So as we get through this, I think some of that extra that we got from CVB or the CVB doesn't need is going to start weaving into the conversation of the rest of this binder. Right? Okay. Marita?
Well, if we give him what was given, it was fourth, I understand what Jack said and what Martin said, I want 400. He's being conservative as we are for the budget. He's getting, what we'd be getting would be 435 like everybody else. Not the 700 because we don't know about that till later. But to me,
Those numbers will be on the
we're now
adopted
netting
budget.
$35,000 into the general fund. Why not just give them the 435 like everybody else, and then revisit that at final budget?
Madam Chair, I believe we just polled and decided to stick with the 400.
Yes.
So I say we
Yes.
move on.
Okay. Moving on. So that was under the tab, oh, Gary?
I was just going to say, is it possible, all these things we're talking about as we go along, the last several years, we've had up on the screen projected, and we write down things that we've decided on, so we can, at the end, we can see everything as a whole, and if that's possible.
Yeah, admin staff
Like,
is
we just
tracking
decide
this.
400,000 for a TOT for the Visitors Bureau, and as we go through this, we can add it, and then everybody can see what's going on.
Yeah, we can bring that back after.
You want to wait for that to come up, or?
No, we can move on and get that ready to go.
Okay, are there any
It's all gonna be-
comments about the CVB discussion specifically? Not the TOT as a whole, just CVB.
There's no online public comment.
Okay. So, moving on, are there any other questions in the auditor, under the auditor controller tab?